This is the Brown Duke Gun Show. My name is JP Garcia, here today with a very special guest, Stephen Wagstaff from SwagAbility. We met, what you think, Steve, 2 years ago, I guess?
Years at least. Yes, sir.
Yeah. At a conference for video creators, of all things.
Yeah.
And, you know, kept a relationship. Here we are. Yeah. Creating videos. And, you know, I wanted to give you just a little bit of a platform to talk about the new stuff you have going on, the tie-in for our guys. You know, here we are in South Louisiana, a lot of hunters, a lot of people who like to get outdoors, very similar to Canada, our friends in Canada. Stephen Wagstaff is in, where are you, in Nova Scotia, right?
One more over towards center.
One more over.
New Brunswick.
Okay.
Yeah.
New Brunswick. Well, yeah. Well, you know, you probably could tell me better. I'm a transplant Cajun, but the Acadiana region. I live in the Acadiana region of Louisiana, and I know that the Acadiana folks came from up there. So we're really kind of cousins, I guess, from a regional standpoint.
I'm sure there's a crossover there where we're all got a little bit of that in us.
Yeah.
There.
Well, the folks down here speak French, and as I know,
language,
you know,
in school.
That's right. And from what I understand, it's, you know, when people from France come here and speak French, they can't understand it, but the other Cajuns, the North Cajuns, can understand it just fine. So
the street French.
Anyway,
yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to have you on. Thank you for coming on, because you have a very interesting now nonprofit, right? SwagAbility is your company.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And want to get into that. And then also our guys are going to want to hear about you taking down a moose after hearing your background and your story. So let me not cut you off anymore, Stephen. You want to tell everybody just a little bit about yourself, you know, and dig into SwagAbility and how people can help out with that.
Absolutely. Thanks, JP, for having me on in such short notice. Appreciate your friendship. Appreciate your channel. We don't get a lot of education in Canada on our guns and things, so it's nice to be able to follow along to someone that knows what they're talking about. So your followers are have a good guru when it comes to that. And so yeah, I'll go back to my hunting at the end. I broke my neck when I was 19, so about 30 years ago, in a diving accident in northern Ontario. I grew up on the water, loved it, enjoy it, still love the water. But there was a sandbar. I didn't see. My friends were kneeling, and I thought they were treading water, like 14 feet of water, but I went down the dock, dove in, hit my head on the bottom there, and was instantly paralyzed from my shoulders down. Just lay face down, facing the bottom there for felt like an eternity. It was probably only 15 seconds or so, but you don't have air. That feels like an eternity. But yeah, was flowing from there down to a hospital in Toronto, spent a year there in rehab, and then 7 years after that in rehab, and got to a point of being mostly independent. Met my wife, married her 3 years after my accident, and she's been my caregiver, love of my life, and full-time best friend since that time. And we've dealt with a number of circumstances, whether it's the loss of a child or whether it's her cancer or loss of siblings. And so we didn't want to waste our trials and suffering. We totally believe in helping the next person that goes through things. And so we decided to take what was a for-profit company, SwagAbility, and we took that out of the for-profit world and we turned it into a registered nonprofit charity in Canada and the United States, with a goal helping individuals who are either going through traumatic illnesses and or disabilities. It's not just spinal cord injuries. It's uh, anyone that's going through some sort of traumatic illness or injury or disability, as well as families that are struggling with caregiving. I know my wife reached a point last year where she went through what's called caregiver burnout. And I think it's what mental health was 10 years ago, where no one
Mm-hmm.
talked about it. It was closet sickness. I think caregiver burnout in a lot of situations where there's a loved one with an illness is the same thing. No one's talking about it. The person that's in that position feels guilty for feeling that way. And the person that senses attention and doesn't want to ask for things, but they're stuck and they don't know how. So we hope to be able to help to not only educate, but show how we've managed to diffuse some of those things. We offer financial support um, and
Mm-hmm.
adaptive products, online community, and then we have two podcasts. One my wife does, Caregivers for, the number four, Caregivers for Caregivers. And then I host the SwagAbility show and talk about everything medical and health related, whether it be neurosurgeons or um, number of different guests. So that's SwagAbility in a nutshell. And we're just looking to, we have global aspirations, but we want to become a household name as when people think traumatic disability or illness, we want SwagAbility to be known as a trusted brand in the world of disabilities, where they can find products that uh, are working and are actually as advertised. Don't have to buy it and then regret it later, or get the financial help that maybe some governments don't provide. So we're just getting going, and
Sure.
yeah, I appreciate you giving me a little bit of a platform, because if you one or two people hear about it, pass it on, and or share it, and or fund it because they have a loved one that's in that situation, then that's one more person we can help, and possibly one more donor that says, hey, that's something I can get behind. So thank you for giving it some eyeballs.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, and you talked at a high level about all of the things you do, right? But I think it's worth it to kind of take a step back and really kind of pick apart each of these places, right? Because
Sure.
since you and I have known each other, we've looked at your website and look at other things. So I, internally kind of know a lot of what you do,
Sure.
right? But let's say that you have a loved one that has a disability, that just comes to disability, or you just say you just have became disabled,
Sure.
right? They find you and they're lost. So what, like, yeah, and you talked about it in bullet points as we talked over there, but
Yeah.
what's the first thing you do? Like, how do you help? Like, walk me through a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We, through our website, swagability.com. So
Mm-hmm.
SWAG, and then ability, swagability.com. Um, my name is Stephen Wagstaff. So I grew up playing sports. I was always called Swagstaff.
Oh, okay.
Always stuck with me. So hence the name Swagability. Um, but they would go, they can get in touch with us through our website. And originally we were offering just information, like, you know, let me
Like product reviews and stuff, right?
point you in a direction. Yeah. Or have you tried this product or that? But since we've started, I come still a licensed pastor and minister. So I come out of the ministry world. So my heart is
Mm-hmm.
really for, yes, there's products that work. Yes, finances help. But where my heart really is where the person's headspace is. And so if they reach out to us, at the bottom of every page, there's a box where ask the staffs, or there's another one to sign up for a monthly newsletter. Either way, they can fill in either of those forms with a bit of their details. And I like to reach out personally with an email, and then get to a point where they're comfortable to have a phone conversation, and
Sure.
I can let them know that, um, yeah, the world right now that you live in is absolutely dark. You can't see what the future holds. You can't see in the moment what you're going to do, and really things you can only look back is behind you and look at what you've lost. But um, being in a chair for 30 years, I've gone through the highs and the lows. And so, really, my first thing I want to do is really get a person to a point where they can trust me, and we can help dispel some of the myths that the brain is going to tell you about your disability. Um, I couldn't move from my shoulders down, and I was told, my dad was told about 3 in the morning that your son will be a vegetable uh, in the state he is for the rest of his life. And, you know,
So
when
not even the wheelchair, because you're in a wheelchair right now, right?
I
So,
I was
but
in a
be
geriatric chair. I was tied into a reclined back, what they call a used to call a geriatric chair, strapped in because I couldn't
Mhm.
hold myself up, couldn't hold my head up or things. And for those first 4 or 5 months, I had everything, everything done for me. And that's how life looked. Um,
Mhm.
Even in that state, I still had a brain that enabled me to function in a way that I could at least share what I was going through to the world. I could share my view from the new platform that I'd been given. And
Mhm.
that had to be a choice. It didn't come natural. Like that was something that I chose to do. So there is so much trauma to not only the body, but the brain. And if you can help a person work through some of that brain trauma and help them understand that there is life to this side of the disability or the illness or whatever. And I think when you offer people uh, not fake hope, but real, just a spark of hope, the human body is amazing in that when you can have a shift of mind slightly and encourage someone or help them along that way. Outlook, I've always said determines outcome. And you may
Mhm.
not walk again, or you may never have function of your hands again. But there are things that on this side of an injury and an illness that the world needs to know about and that you can be the best authority on because you're living in that every day now.
Right.
You can minister to someone else, and it's recognizing you still have worth. And I think that's the biggest battle next to obviously any physio or exercises or whatever your rehab process looks like. I think it starts in the mind. And from there, if you can shift your mind and alter that, um, you can be a benefit to the world in a way that you never thought you could. And we like to help people, first of all, get to that spot. And then
Yeah.
if there's financial, not that we have it now, we're in our first round of trying to raise donations, but we want to be able to, for those that didn't have any sort of coverage from work, or those that are living in a state or province that the government funding only meets a little bit of what your requirement is, say for
Mhm.
transportation or a wheelchair or something to make you mobile, um, or that would make it easier for your family, say renovations to try and get into a house. We're all about doing the practical things to make life as normal as it can be, like it was before. And so, um, yeah, that's
Got it. Okay.
steps. Yeah.
S- So you start. So you reach out. You've talked to somebody like this,
Sure.
person.
Yeah.
You help them out initially with, okay, here are from the very tactical stuff, like, okay, here's a wheelchair that may fit you, or, actually, I don't like that brand because XYZ. Here are some clothes that you should probably think of. Because I remember your website, you had clothes specifically for disabled folks. But then, what I liked was also, it's not just the physical trauma, right? But you talked about the brain injury, but I think, where you're going with that is really the psychological trauma that you're going to have to unpack.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't happen overnight, right? I mean, it takes years.
Yes, it does. And I will say that, right now we do this on a one-on-one basis, or my wife and I will sit with a family, but we've been fortunate enough over the years to stay well connected in the medical community, from anywhere from physios, physiotherapists, to occupational therapists, to doctors and surgeons that we've had on our program and things like that. So from that point, we don't delve into areas that we know we're not an expert on, but we will certainly help facilitate a transition to, like we say on our website, if we don't have the answer here, we will find the answer for you and put you in touch with someone that we would be comfortable with post 30 years into our injury or into our relationship or wherever we are and whatever battle we're facing. With 30 years of kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit further than maybe some out there, whether maybe it's travel that you don't know that you can do. And we'll put you in touch with people that that I've already spoken with and have committed to being a part of SwagAbility. And hopefully we can put you in touch with someone close to home that we would say, you know what, they have a great reputation. Their products are, to us, the most solid. You shouldn't be paying this much for a chair, because a lot of people get taken, and it's sad when they first get into it. The medical industry is it's a war for medical companies that are selling stuff to want to beat the other person to it. And so I ended up buying my first chair through a trust fund and spending like $4,000 because I was told that if I didn't buy that chair that, there might not be a chance for me to ever get it again. And only to find out 2 months later that, you know what, there's funding for that in our state and in our province, and that we overpaid for that. So we don't have all the answers. We like to think we do, but I think we have a monopoly on a lot of them. And we want to make sure that even pointing you in the direction of websites that can be reputable, podcasts that we've made friends with that might fall more in line than maybe where we are with our injury. Maybe it's like a cerebral palsy or a medical condition that my knowledge isn't so much on, but I have a friend that, that's all he knows is cerebral palsy, and be an excellent contact. So our desire and the tagline we always have is we want individuals to thrive where life finds them, wherever that is, but not just accept, but to thrive in whatever condition life finds them in. And so,
and I think that, it's so, and I can't speak to it. I'm only projecting what my thoughts are, given I don't have a disability. But I've got to imagine that if you were to find yourself in a position where you had a disability, right, just to see and know somebody who's out there like you, that, you've been in a wheelchair for 30 years, right? And they said initially that you'd be a vegetable, and now you're not, right? And and maybe, of course, different diagnoses, different situations, everybody's different. But just to see that there is a person, at least one who has made it this long, and life is, like normal, right? You're living a normal life. We'll get into it here in a little bit, but You took down a moose as a hunter. You know, like you can do these things, you know, and I think that is super important where, yeah, you're not going to be the doctor. You're not going to replace, you know, the psychologist or the surgeon or whatever, but you're a person who can stand there and say, hey, I'm here, you know, I've been in the chair 30 years. Life, you know, life can still happen and you will be okay. You know, that support group kind of thing.
I
right?
hop off of every word. When I was first flowing down to Toronto, and when I got out of the ICU, I was first put in my own room, and I never wanted to leave that room. I didn't want to see people, didn't want to be around people in wheelchairs, didn't want to do any of the community integration programs. I just let me die or let me just live here. I don't want to be around anyone. And people will deal with it in many different ways, but I remember once I did leave that initial isolation where I felt comfortable with the one or two nurses I had and the two or three friends that were coming in. That was my world. But once I started getting out and around, at least listening, I hung off of words that I heard other quads say, other quads that were out there. I'd hear them say, you know, I'm going out in my van tonight and we're heading out to do fishing. And, you know, and I'm like, how in the world? I mean, you got no hands, you've got whatever. And come to find out now that, you know, they've even got drone fishing rods out there where you can't cast it with your arms, but they'll have a drone, take it out and cast it, drop your line. And then
No
there's
kidding.
so much I would say in the last 10 years where adaptive products have just, it's no longer about, since the ADA Act was signed in 1980 something, I should know that under the first Bush administration, it was a matter of integrating people back into society. Now it's a matter of not integrating. Yes, there is that initial going out in public for the first time, or people are looking at me and I don't even notice it anymore. But it's now so commonplace to see with people with illness and disabilities. It's all about them now enjoying the quote unquote freedoms that an able person has to do all the things that they used to do. And anything from, I've got another podcast this week with a video gaming platform where they take anything from the blinking of your eyes to movement in a shoulder to press a switch to get people back playing video games again, and or a sip and puff like a mouthpiece that will control the video game and things. And so
oh wow, okay,
much more than there was when I was first injured. Like power chairs were just kind of coming onto the scene. And so, like I said, now it's not so much about integrating people back into the community. It's about now, how do we make those with disabilities not only have the same work advantages as everyone else, but also the same hobbies that they do before. And yeah, where there's a will, there's almost in every situation a way. And
yeah,
you know,
that's amazing.
I told one of my friends that who's along on the journey with us, look, if we raise, you know, $100,000, you know, I'd even jump out of an airplane with someone because I've seen it done. I've seen another paralyzed person. It was a tandem jump. I would be terrified, but I would do it.
Wow. So really? Okay. Yeah. That's amazing.
Put it out there because you never know.
Well, that could be a fundraiser for that for sure. It's, you know,
but
throw Steve out of a plane.
That's what we're laughing at. Often, I just started a program with a guy with cerebral palsy called the Nick and Steve Show. And we just randomly banter about the newest stuff that's out there and how it could help us. And so we'll take a wild story that each of us have found during the week, and we'll talk about that for a better part of an hour. And just kind of muse about where life is going for people with disabilities and the newest products that we're finding out. And it's just, I think humor is one of the greatest gifts that God's ever given us. And not that you laugh a lot when you're first injured. There's a lot of tears that need to be shed. And there's a lot of,
Mhm.
dealing with the hard stuff. But if my wife and I didn't have a sense of humor, um, life would be pretty unbearable over the last 30
Yeah.
years. But to be able to laugh at yourself, with others, at others, um, it it's something that does the heart good, I think. Yeah.
Well, good. Well, and learning to find whatever it is your new normal is, and it is so cool to hear that, you can fish with the drone.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I would do that as a non-disabled person just to
Absolutely.
see it done,
Yeah. There's some great-
Um, that's amazing. So, but now we got to go back to the show. We
Absolutely.
got to go back. We got to go back to the heart of it, because people are going to want to hear how you, Steve Wagstaff, in a wheelchair, paralyzed, took down a massive moose as a hunter.
Yeah.
So
With
let
my
me tell you.
shooter as a second shooter was a man, a young guy in a wheelchair as well. So there's two of us that were out.
Oh yeah, okay.
Second
So
was,
two guys in wheelchairs go out and hunting. Now
yeah,
you're talking Cajun.
yeah, right?
So yeah, tell us all about it.
Yeah, that's a line that two guys in wheelchairs went out hunting. Dot dot dot. I mean, that'll be a book that reads. Yeah,
Well, and it's not just you went hunting. It's easy to go out and hunt in a sense that you go out and and you have your rifles and you're ready to shoot. But you guys took down a moose,
we did. Yeah,
a legitimate moose.
780 pounds, I think, is what it
7, 8. Jeez.
was. When it stepped out, it made my heart flutter. But
Yeah.
yeah, when I moved out east, originally I was kind of a city boy from Toronto, a little north of Toronto, but you know, farming, hunting, the great outdoors. I spent most of my time in a gym with
Mhm.
sports or on a baseball field. So hunting wasn't even up my alley. I at least I never thought about it until I moved out east, and I had a buddy at Bible college, and he was able-bodied at the time, and he would also, yeah, he became one of my best friends, and he would hate to see me stuck at the edge of the road. So he'd tie me to a toboggan and try and cart me out in the snow to
Mhm.
get back, or he'd throw me on his back, or he'd try and where there was a will, there was a way. Anyway, he'd get me out there and he'd plop me down against a tree and whatever, tie me around
Mhm.
a band so I didn't fall over, put a gun in my hand, and that was, you know what? At least I was out in the woods. And
Sure.
over the next 10 years, we just worked on developing. I'm sorry,
That's okay.
something that would work for me, and so we came up with a bipod, obviously to support the rifle, and have a lane. Um, because my left hand doesn't hold things that well, and my right hand only works a little bit, which some people
Mhm.
use like a string and a trigger. There's all sorts of devices out there, but I was fortunate enough to have some trigger pull in my finger, and so my wife and I, and with the help of others, I would go out 10 years every trying to hunt deer, but really I only had a 30-degree, maybe 40-degree range, like a
Mhm.
spray hose. When you spray it, it's got kind of a degree of what it'll hit. Really, that was only my target because I can't turn around and shoot. I can't. So I have had deer come out behind me. I've had deer walk out beside me, and I'm watching them graze, and I can't
Oh
squeeze it.
man, you can't take the shot.
Couldn't.
Yeah.
Seen some beautiful things, but never been able to drop anything. So the it was so weird. I said to my wife, I'm not sure what it's like in the States, but we have to go into a draw every year for to get your tag pulled for a moose.
Mhm.
And so I said to her, we've done this the last 10 years. And I finally got my first buck. Like a, I don't know, 150-yard shot. It wasn't anything crazy, but it had one tine coming off the side. But you know what? It was legal.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first one that was ever in 30 degrees. And I had shot that. And I said to my wife the next year, I know it's getting harder to get on the side by side, lifting me in the whole bit. And let's take a year off. And then my put in for the
Your
10th
moose.
year just to keep my odds increasing. And lo and behold, I got a letter in the mail. It's like, you've been selected for a moose hunt. This was the year after I had
Oh
taken my
my goodness.
clearance. So I was like, I can't not take this up. And I'd made a pact with my friend, even though my buddy Matt, we said whenever one of us draws one, we'll always promise one another he'd be the second shooter. Well, over the 10 years, Matt, my good buddy, he ended up in a wheelchair as well. Whether
Mm-hmm.
doctors couldn't come up with a absolute diagnosis as why, but he was fully dependent on a wheelchair, and so I didn't want to break that pact we made, and so I called him and said, "We're going hunting." He has his full upper body. He's more of a para, so he
Mm-hmm.
has two good working arms and an upper body, and we had a couple friends that were guides, and so they came down, and my wife and I did scouting a couple months before. We knew they were coming in and out of an area not too far from the home, and so we set up for the week's hunt. And yeah, I missed opportunity one morning to take a shot because it wasn't directly in line of sight, and there was
Mm-hmm.
no way to squeeze a shot off. And so I was so down because that was day 3, I think, and we were getting to the end of our hunt, and the weather was like 30 degrees and moving up for the fall. So it was like I just blew the opportunity. So I went out one more afternoon, and even though it was 30 degrees, um, I was put on. I stayed in the driver's side of side by side, and they set my bipod up and faced me down the length of a field where there was a swamp at the end. And then my other buddy Matt, they put him on a trailer and ratcheted him into up on the top of a trailer right behind me, facing the other lane where the swamp sat. So they were
Okay.
either going to come at one end or the other. And bless their hearts, the two guides, one stayed with me because I was dropping things. I'd move, or it was 30 degrees. I near passed out. So he was dumping water on me, and we were just really bummed out. And then right around 4 o'clock, if you watch the video, you'll see the sun was directly in our eyes, but there was two
Mm-hmm.
of them in the swamp, and they were kind of letting one another know they were there, and they were mad because they were coming out, I guess, to the doe that was making the call, or I guess the cow. Um, and he stepped out broadside and looked at me, and I had to calm my heart down. And I fired one round right behind his shoulder, and you'll hear in the video, hit him again, because they told me whatever you do, keep shooting till it goes down. Don't make us chase this thing. And so I jacked another one into the chamber, but I also was like, my senses came to me that it turned to take some steps over the bank. I didn't want to paunch it.
Mm-hmm.
One more shot, and it fell over. And yeah, you'll see in the video, I was just so much adrenaline. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, the rest was driving over and watching the two of them field dress it, and that fed one, two, that fed 4 men almost a whole year with the meat.
Yeah. 780.
Yeah, it was big. It was a
Would they come out with after they dressed it?
I had that number. Yeah, I know that we divided it up, and each guy took 4 boxes, like apple crate boxes, like that you buy a thing of apples in. And yeah, we kept 4, and each one of those guys got 4 as well. I just split it evenly around, and it fed my wife and I for just shy of a year. I think it was like 11 months.
That's amazing.
So it was just neat to go through experience out there with friends, out there in nature. And like I said, after 10 years, I was satisfied with, I'd finally shot a doe. Never thought in my wildest dreams, even if I did get a moose hunt, what are the odds of them being in a 30-degree lane? Like no matter how you set up. So I was like, well, maybe one of them will get a shot off. But for me to be able to take the shot after persistently going out 10 years, early mornings, and then go back in the evening for a night hunt for deer at least. And now I love like coyote, whatever. So I shoot 22.
Oh, that's a problem up there too, I'm sure. Yeah, they're all over the place down here.
For sure. Yeah. Anyway, it's yeah.
Well, that's cool. So then I have to ask you a follow-up question. Then what's your rig? You know, what scope are you using? What rifle? What range did you shoot it at? All the good gun questions.
Gun question. I shot it with it was a 308.
Okay.
I had a Browning, but I borrowed a rifle that was a bit shorter of a stock on it because we were looking at different spots, and you know that if the further out from me it got, the heavier the gun got, and so we tried to keep something shorter. And yeah, I think it just I'm trying to remember what I know what my gun is. I'm trying to remember what his was mounted and set up with that day. I know on since that time I bought a Browning. It's a 22-250. And it's in Canada, at least I can carry it through all seasons because it's in the 22 caliber family.
Okay. Yeah.
And you'll have to have me on part 2 for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have some of our hunting guys come on the show. They'll probably have a lot more questions for you. You know,
I definitely want to get because I love the rifle, and there was so much adrenaline. I don't remember if it was lever action or bolt. It may have been bolt because we were thinking about how I can jack in a second chamber with one good hand when the other doesn't work. And because I had a guy right beside me that I would have maybe handed it to reload and then whatever go again with the adrenaline of the day. I was able to do what I normally can't do and quickly
be chambered one. Yeah, regardless, that's amazing.
So yeah, the video is pretty cool. I'll make sure I link it, or I'll send you a link to it so the guys can watch it. And
for sure, yeah,
you guys, I mean, I travel wherever. You guys, I don't even know where you're located. I've known you for a bit, but look,
South Louisiana. You have to come down. You know, we'll have to put anti-gator stuff on your wheelchair.
That's okay. We would love to. That's something Matt and I had always wanted to get over to Newfoundland and hunt, because it's just a phenomenal province of beauty. But he's had the privilege of being in the U.S. A few times when he was pasturing down in that area and hunting.
Sure.
He said it was just a great time, and so that's one thing I miss is the camaraderie of men, just being out there. And so Julie, I think after her cancer surgeries and things, getting me dressed and up and early and out, I think those days are gone. But if I had a group of men that heck wanted to set something up, I'd be there in a heartbeat. So
there you go. Maybe we'll have to get something set up.
Yeah, you talk amongst your community, see what you can come up with.
For sure. So a follow-up question here then. Do you have to do anything special to your rifle? Given you talked about having it on a bipod, you know, adjustable, like adjustable stock, anything like that, that for those who are, with disability, maybe these are things they can think of if they're setting up their hunting rigs.
There are some really, I didn't need it because at the time I wasn't in a power chair. Now I'm confined to a power wheelchair.
Mhm.
I was able to either sit in a side by side or in a manual chair, which you can, if you've got enough strong guys, you can move a manual chair anywhere. But a power chair is 400 pounds plus 200 of me in it,
Sure.
600. Really can't get anywhere. So, but so now there is uh, actually legit mountings that the whole reason I don't want to waste a lot of your time. The whole reason I started SwagAbility as a
Mhm.
for-profit, I was trying to raise money for something called a track chair, and I'll link it.
Okay.
A link to it. Literally, it's a power chair, but it's on two tank tracks, rubberized, but
Yeah.
it went anywhere. But some of the options on that is like a gun mount on the front,
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
and so yeah, you can have it lined up and bolted, so um, it's directly either off to the side or in front. There's specific scopes now that will allow you to not have to look like straight on through it. It's obviously done with mirrors, and so you don't have to line up right behind the scope to know where you're being where your aim is. And I've
Sure.
seen it now too with where they because some people don't have the finger dexterity to have any sort of pull weight on your trigger, is that it's done with like a, I won't call it a string, but it's a line anyway that would just hook up to, if someone has even the little ability to just pull their hand towards themselves,
Sure.
that would engage the trigger and fire the shot. There's a father son YouTube channel that I'll send you, and he's always taking his son out, and they just keep reinventing things. I've seen guys go up in like a um, uh, basically a like a hydro truck, but it's got a bucket on it, and
Okay. Yeah.
retrofit that, and so they get an able-bodied person and the guy in the wheelchair, and then they're up, and so all painted it and camouflaged it amongst apple trees. Like there's some neat stuff that fathers
Okay.
who have always wanted their sons to stay in it have really come up with some, I won't say redneck, but just really.
So you can say redneck on this show. It's okay. We know what you mean.
Yeah, all right. That's exactly what they've done. They've just had the heart, the mind, and come up with the intuition that, like, hunters are smart. They're smart people, and there's guys that, we can weld that here or put that there, and um, yeah, there's so it's the same thing. I've seen rifles modified, whether I'm allowed to say that or not. I've seen that.
Yeah.
When I did my firearms test, of course, before you're even allowed to, we have to have a PAL, personal acquisitions license,
Hmm.
and I was the first one to ever challenge that in New Brunswick in a wheelchair, because you have to prove. I don't know if it's the same, like prove, prove. It's like point, observe, verify. Uh, I can't remember the last of the letters. I passed it years ago, but anyway,
Okay.
um, and then they have basically an instructor and a warden, and you have to prove that you can do it according to the Canadian book of firearms. And I couldn't do it because my left hand didn't work, so I
Mhm.
couldn't use a lot. Like I couldn't shackle like a say a pump action, um,
Sure.
the way they wanted it done. And so they had the lead firearms officer in the province come up, and he's like, if you can show me that you can safely load and unload a gun and how you would plan to carry it if you're in a hunting situation, uh, I'll go to bat for you, even if we have to change some of the regulations. And so um, he
That's
came,
amazing.
and yeah, I was able to show them how I practiced a lot there, but I was able to show them that I could legitimately still hold a firearm. I had the mental capacity to know which magazine and which, shell you're putting in it. So you have to show you knew that. And um, they had one where they show you how you're going to get out over a fence. So they actually have a thing for the kids to come into and say, okay, you're going over the fence now. What are you going to do with your gun? Well, obviously you lay it down under it and then you climb over a fence. Well, I couldn't do any of that. So I just said, I will show you what I would do to hand it to my partner, and then I'll find a way around, and then he'll hand it back to me. So again, it's outlook determines outcome. And if you've got an outlook at, you know what, I don't know if there's a way to do it, but I'd love to try it. And we surround you with the right people, a good occupational therapist, and the people we know. I can promise you there's not many hobbies that you can't participate in that you could previous to your accident that are new probably within the last decade, because none of this that I for the first 15 to 20 years, there was nothing really invented. It was all a matter of being integrated into society. But now disability is so commonplace. 1.3 billion in the world. I forget how many in the U.S. and um, that it's like, okay, how can we give a person with a traumatic illness or disability, or even if you don't call it a disability, a differing ability, how we can give them their hobby or sport back. I think we can find a way in most situations. I won't guarantee 100%, but
sure,
I'm willing enough to say that I know I can fall out of a plane with someone. I know I can get you probably lined up with someone that can make sure your hobby that you like to do before, you can at least have a crack at owning it.
Yeah.
It's amazing the way our brains will adjust anywhere from gaming to hunting to whatever. It's just a new normal. I used to hate that saying, but I did realize it's what everyone is different. Like every able-bodied person is different. So there is no definition of normal.
Correct.
Normal is what you make it. It's just a shift in mind. Normal is what you make of yourself, and your shift of mind to say, okay, this is the normal for me. It doesn't have to be how everyone does it, but it's normal for my wife and I. So
yeah. Well, very good. So, hey, thank you for taking the time here. Let's wrap up quickly with the last question I want to ask you is, with regard to SwagAbility, you're now a nonprofit operating in Canada and in the U.S.
Sir.
What do you need? I know money, of course, is going to be, probably the first answer. But how else can people plug in? How can they help? How can they join your community? All of these things.
I would say the best way to start is at our webpage, swagability.com. And from there, contact us through sign up for our monthly newsletter and ask a question or just introduce yourself. And I will make sure, unless I'm inundated with hundreds of thousands, even if it was, I'd still make an effort to talk to everyone one-on-one and see what your needs are. See, what maybe it's a family member that wants to call because the person with the disability is not ready yet. And that's okay too. I have been on speakerphone before where people don't want to talk, and I just explain who I am, kind of what we do, let them know that there is life after the darkness that they're surrounded in. And I've been in ministry all my life, so money has never been something that's always been on the forefront of what I ask for. But right now, donations would mean a lot to my wife and I. She's just giving me my pain medication now. And so, but other than that, I've always asked for volunteers. If you have a ability with computers and website, or if you're good at social media, I need. I'm being. It's growing so quickly now that it's quickly outgrowing my wife and I's ability to still
manage it,
maintain a relationship as husband and wife without me being into the office at 1 and 2 in the morning. And so I'm open for volunteers in every field, because if you want to be part of SwagAbility and join Swag Nation. There's a place on the bench for you, because the further the name goes out, the more needs we can get. And maybe it's just something that you need that gives you reason to put your feet on the ground every morning. And that need can be encouraging someone else who is in your situation. And even in our online community, I need, people that can oversee different threads and talk about different segments. So there's so many needs. I just need money and people.
There you go. Well, there you go. Thank you. Swagability.com is where to reach you initially, and you can get everybody plugged into your online communities. You're connected with you directly.
Yep. They can jump on all our social channels from there, our YouTube, our X account, and many more. My webpage looks not completed right now because our application process required us to just follow what we said we're going to do. And we're good with that right now. But at least it shows that there's so much more coming when we get that.
Very good. Well, Steve, hey, thank you for your time. It's good catching up with you. We will do this again. And I'm sure next time we'll have a bunch of different questions for you, and hopefully SwagAbility has taken the next step and everything's going well for you. So anything else you want to say before we leave?
No. Well, your community, if they're men with guns that love to hunt and they've got a thought of how it can be easier, or I don't even know. Look, there's probably people in your state that could use your help if you're willing to either, I don't know if you need guides or whatever, but if you're someone I'm just talking hunting, but there's so many more needs, but you're a specific niche in general where hunters are there. If you'd ever be open to helping an individual with a disability to go on a hunt and help them, that's one more avenue that I can say, look, I know so-and-so in this state, and let me give you their phone number, and maybe they have property or whatever, and we can make it if that's your dream to hunt, then I'll connect you together. But that could be where your community could be very helpful.
Very good.
In their state. So thank you. Good to see you, JP.
And awesome. Likewise. We will talk again soon. Thanks, everybody.